It's the weekend, and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. We are delighted that you're joining us for the last weekend in July. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. It's not scary or boring. It's a little bit of fun. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Mark is running the show from behind the glass. I'm just looking at your silhouette there, Mark, and you are looking rather slender. You've kept off all of your weight. Guys literally just stops drinking one day a week. Not drinking as much. He still drinks. He wants you all to know. Because 3 drinks a week or 3 nights a week? 3 drinks a week. He's very disciplined. I went off my disciplined normal pace because, I am pretty disciplined myself, but I was out in California for a wedding, destination wedding. And, when in wine country, do drink wine. That's the theory, right? It doesn't count when you're on vacation, so you don't hold to any of that on vacation. You go nutty on vacation. I do too, but then it sort of slips into, okay, I'll go nutty on the weekends. And then it's like, well, I'll go start on Wednesday. So anyway, it is the summertime. I know it's hard to focus on your money. I know. I want to point out, however, that this is the time of year where I think you should be a little bit more careful than you normally would be. And here's why. It's not that the summer is necessarily where something bad could happen. What I've been thinking a lot about is that it's been very, very quiet for a while. I mean, really boring almost. And, in fact, volatility as measured by one weird index called the VIX, the volatility index. It just basically is a bet. Investors make a bet on, will markets rise or fall over the next month. But anyway, the VIX recently dropped to the lowest level in 24 years, since 1993. And when that happens, sometimes it does show a bit of complacency. So you might be wondering, what could go wrong? Well, I put a post up about that. You see that, Mark? Make that. He tweeted it. Thank God somebody's tweeting it. And so we know Fed is not doing much, but, the Fed, what could go wrong is the Fed could make a policy mistake. We could actually have some real political upheaval for some reason or another. But what about you? What could happen with you? You could have a little investor amnesia. You could forget that you're taking on too much risk, or you get a little bit bold, or you just kind of blow things off. Don't do that. Complacency might even embolden you to think you can assume more risk than you should. And more importantly, maybe you actually ignore the basics. Because sometimes when markets are rising and real estate values are rising, people just say, oh, I don't have to worry about this because, the market's doing the saving for me. Don't do that. Do not do that. Hop on to JillOnMoney.com. You can read the whole article about what could go wrong. All right, let's go take a call. Sean is on the line from New Hampshire. Hello, Sean. Welcome to Jill on Money. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I had a question about student loans.
Okay.
After my financial aid, I still have about $9,000 I have to pay. And I was wondering if I should have my parents co-sign on a student loan and try to get a better rate, and whether I should go with a fixed rate or variable.
Sean, what is the rate differential? In other words, if you were to take the loan in your own name, what would the interest rate be?
Around 8 or 9% for a variable and 9 to 10 for a fixed.
Okay. And if your parents co-sign?
Anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5% on a variable and about 5 to 7 on a fixed.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. What are you studying? Do you think that you're going to be able to come out of school with a degree? that is going to land you a job?
I just switched into finance.
Oh my gosh! All right, so let's presume that you'll get a job when you finish. How much will your total student debt be? Because this is your last year of school?
I have 2 more years.
And the $9,000, is that for this year or for the next 2 years?
This is for this year.
So how much have you amassed in debt so far?
I only have about $6,000 in student loans so far.
Great. Okay. And are your parents prepared to co-sign? I mean, do they feel okay about it, or is there some consternation about this?
They're fine co-signing,
Mm-hmm.
but they were worried about a Parent Plus loan. They don't really know what that is, so they want to kind of.
Yeah, the Parent Plus loans are, essentially that they would take out that loan in their name, but not even co-signing. That would literally be just in their name. If they're okay with co-signing and you are okay with them being at risk, because remember, if you don't make a payment, if something bad happens, you don't get a job, these loans are their loans. Whatever they co-sign for, it's as if you are now joined at the hip. Okay? That means even if something bad happened in their credit report that affected you, that would be bad for you. But you are now joining your fates. But it's not huge money either, right? So as you said, it's not like a ton of money. You've got what sounds like quite affordable student loans. Chances are, I'm hopeful that you could get a job when you move on to, sort of the real world. So I don't think it's a terrible idea. What I think is important is that if you could potentially get a federal student loan, that's, maybe a little bit better in terms of not so much the interest rate, but it would give you more flexibility in repayment options, at least for the time being. But I guess that if they're game, we'd love to go for the lowest interest rate possible. And you would be hopefully paying back the debt as quickly as possible as soon as you finish school. So I don't think there's a real downside in this kind of the total amount of debt, because we're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I do think that you guys have to go in with your eyes wide open as to that your credit histories are now going to be contingent on each of you doing the right thing. So someone could really hurt the other party's credit score, credit record by doing something dumb. I'm hopeful that's not going to happen, especially because you're going into finance. So I think that, generally speaking, if you could get a rate that's lower by having them co-sign, that's great. They should look at Parent Plus loans. You should look at federal versus private. And be sure to understand all the terms and conditions that apply. So go get a low rate, Sean. Go get a job and repay that debt as quickly as you can. You're listening to Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money. Here she is, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. And following up that good question from Sean in New Hampshire about student loans, I have been thinking a lot about these student loans because, it just is unbelievable how much debt that people can assume. It's not normal. Because I know we sometimes will talk about, these big debt situations. But, when you really look at the numbers, it's not as stark as some of these stories. It's more like Sean, I've got $6,000 in debt so far. Maybe I'm going to end up with another 8-9 grand a year. So maybe there's going to be $25,000 in debt. That's not so terrible. Remember, the education experts who are really smart say if you can keep your debt level less than what you think you'll earn in your first year at work, your total debt, you're probably going to be fine. You're going to just pay that sucker off pretty quickly. So that is not exactly the case for Damien and his girlfriend. He wrote in about his girlfriend that she attended graduate school to become a physician's assistant, which is great, right? Job that need, a lot of openings for physician's assistants. But you ready for the downside? Here is the quote. The only downside is she is now in a tremendous amount of debt. She owes $163,000 over 5 loans. So right now she is paying at a reduced rate. The rate increases over time. The amount she's paying now is $1,300 a month. In 10 years, she will be paying more than $2,800 a month. Mark is shaking his head. It is. It's a mortgage. It's a mortgage in most parts of the country. So, and the debt is, just to give you an idea, it is essentially about 5% to 7%. About, okay? 5 to 7%. And right now, the Sig Others net income, net, 90 grand. So here's the, she makes 90 grand. The loan is $1,800 a month. I presume he says monthly expenses. He means monthly expenses before that $1,800 a month. So she has $2,500 of expenses. So it'll be $2,500 plus the $1,800, and that's just $1,800 now. That's going up, right? So it's going to be tight for her. And this is going to be a real issue. So what do we do when someone, let's say that she has $7,500 in take-home pay. She's got $4,300 of expenses. It's not so bad, but it's going up to $2,800 for the student loan. So what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this, Mark? Let's see that, what about this? Right now, there are these types of loans that are called public service loans, meaning that if you have an employer who's a nonprofit, you may be able to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Now, the only problem with this is that, first of all, I'm hopeful that this plan remains in place, but I don't know because there are some squawkings that maybe it wouldn't. But the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program basically forgives the amount of money you have on your direct loans after you've made 120 qualifying monthly payments, 10 years. Now, the reason why this could work is that you have direct loans. Or she has direct loans because he qualified that for me. And so maybe what you do is she tries to apply for a job at an organization that would allow her to qualify for the public school loan forgiveness plan. Because otherwise, I'm not exactly sure how she's going to do this. Unless you're going to help her. Maybe you will. I mean, she can still do it. Again, if she's going to have take-home pay of $7,500 and her total loan payment is going up to, $5,000 or $5,500 a month, she still makes it. It's just that it doesn't give her a ton of room. And chances are, as she gets older, her expenses might increase. So I'm not sure exactly what the question is, except to say the best option is to, as quickly as possible, pay down the highest interest debt first. So she's got one loan at 6.96. So she makes the minimum payment on everything and then piles as much money as she possibly can towards the highest interest loans, and then hopefully whittles it down and works her way down. But for that, I think that what she would do is maybe investigate working for a hospital. Maybe that's a better way to do it because she would qualify for loan forgiveness. I don't know. I'm just saying that at this point, it would be a real shame if she essentially just sort of got choked off from accomplishing any other financial goal because she was just drowning in this $160,000 of debt. Mark's shaking his head. No, no, no. I just met a young girl who said to me that she wanted to be an occupational therapist. Okay, the girl's going to be a junior in high school. This is what I love. I said, well, why not be a doctor? She says, well, because, I don't know. I don't think I could. I would have to take out a ton of loans. My family can't afford it. She's a junior, going into her junior high school. She says, and I have found a program in occupational therapy where I can go to community college for 2 years. Listen, is this great? I can then transfer into this program for 3 years. I come out with a master's in occupational therapy, and hopefully I can, qualify for grants and aids. But I can basically do all of my pre-med, science-y requirements at the community college, transfer in, and then have 3 years. And that's the way we need to be thinking. That is the way to think. Right? And doing it earlier. Because you know what happens? This guy's writing in about his girlfriend. It's already happened. Or, someone's already made choices. Then we really have to be careful because those choices have lasting effects. By the way, our friend Kelly Peeler, friend of the radio show, just wrote in and said there are big money mistakes that college students are making, not the least of which is filling out financial aid forms like FAFSA, and also, which I think is her number one top money mistake, misinterpreting financial aid packages. The majority of the students that Kelly Peeler at Next Gen Vest, that she says that her organization has helped out, they don't understand the difference between a grant, a scholarship, and a loan package. They think all of that money is the same. Obviously, whatever you're on the hook for that you have to pay back, you want to know what that is. And by the way, why are these financial aid offices not having some uniform procedures and ways that they have to actually report it? It seems crazy to me. It shouldn't be so confusing. All right. Don't burn down your house. Don't pay too much for college, and don't assume too much debt. You're listening to Jill on Money. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Want to make your money grow? Consider her the fertilizer. Now, more Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
We haven't used that intro in a long time. Consider me the fertilizer. That could be taken so many different ways. She's full of fertilizer, Mark. You're listening to Jill on Money. And the phone number here is 855-411-JILL. Our email address, askjill at jillonmoney.com. Go check out our website, jillonmoney.com. And our YouTube channel. Just search Jill Schlesinger. Mark has done some good stuff there. Oh, here's something also great, Mark. I met somebody when I was at this wedding last weekend, hanging around the fire pit at the inn where I was staying. And this woman's starting a new job at Instagram. She says, "Oh, do you have an Instagram profile or account?" I said, "Yes, I do." Of course, I knew nothing about it, but Mark has created an Instagram account for us called Jill on Money. Is that right? That's why I can't log into it. I think I have a Jill Schlesinger one with zero anything in it. Anyway, so check us out on Instagram. I'm not sure what you'd find out there. What's the whole point of the Instagram account anyway? I'm not sure. Photos. Okay. Photo sharing. Well, anyway, there's some photos there. Mark will hook you up. Also, I am the Senior Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards Ambassador. So check out the CFP board if you want to see some cool stuff and if you want to learn about how to become a CFP, because we get a lot of questions about that, which is awesome. And we want to really be cheerleaders for this designation because I think it's an important one. It's a great way to differentiate yourself from other folks out there. And it's also a way for you to quickly understand that either you as a professional, you are a CFP, or you can say, hey, I'm a fiduciary regardless of what happens to the Department of Labor rule. And I am held to this concept that I have to put your best interest first. And from the public's point of view, that's a good thing to know. So check out letsmakeaplan.org. That's where you can find some good stuff. Oh, and I just mentioned something about student loans, and I mentioned friend of the show, Kelly Peeler. Her company is Next Gen Vest. You should check that out, nextgenvest.com. They've got money mentors. They're basically trained college students who help high school or college students make the process of applying for college and financial aid so much easier. Go check out nextgenvest.com. That's for sure something to check out. I'm looking at you saying, is that somebody who's on the phone, or do I have to worry about that? All right. Mark's talking to me off air. So, all right, let's do it. Here's a question. So far this hour, we've talked a lot about student loans and education debt. Here is a question from Nisha, who says, I have a two-part question. If you sell a property in a country outside of the United States and you want to bring that money into the United States to invest in another property, what are the tax liabilities? What's the best way to repatriate the money? This is a good and easy question for me to say, I don't know, because it depends on the country and the deal that the U.S. has with that country. You should absolutely talk to a CPA or an accountant to research that based on whatever country it is. Usually you're going to pay some tax that is due either from the country or from the U.S., some offset. But you're going to pay tax, you bring it in, and that's that. You're not going to get any sort of deal by saying, oh, I sold a property in one country, now I'm going to buy property in the U.S. and I'm going to defer my taxation. That you will not be able to do. But do seek counsel of a qualified CPA or a tax preparer who can look up whatever country you're talking about. Second part of the question, I have two boys, ages 12 and 6. My elder one wants to be a doctor. Okay. People say that if you invest in 529 plans, the chances of you getting scholarships is next to nil. Should we invest in other ways rather than 529 plans? Well, that's not – okay, first of all, scholarships are different than financial aid, right? A scholarship is you get something based on your smarts, and that means you don't have to repay the money, and that is not affected by the way the family saves. Yes, saving in 529 plans could alter the ability for you to secure financial aid. It may mean that the contribution that you make to your kid's education rises. Okay? Now, is that a terrible thing? I don't think so, because I still believe that it's really important that you are saving for college, because even if, some portion of that money that's in the kid's name, yeah, you may have to, we may be discounted, or the college may say you have to put more money in, but not saving for college is also pretty rotten. So I think that you're going to have to be really diligent about saving, but that happens after you do other stuff, that you make sure that your own financial life is in good shape. So I wouldn't put money in a 529 plan before, for example, I paid off my own debt or I maxed out my retirement accounts. And then, yeah, I think you should use 529 plans. I don't think not saving is the way to do it, because you may or may not get financial aid. First of all, we know you got to fill out the form to do it. So the last part of the question is that that she attended a seminar that from a company that helps you get maximum scholarship or best tuition prices. I doubt it highly. I would not. I would avoid that. I would try our friend Kelly's Next Gen Vest. So it's going to be free. So that helps, right? We like free better than paid. I always think that those folks who actually pay money to have someone else do those things, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. I really don't. So good luck. Wish you well. I just recently did a piece on CBS about Social Security, and I got a question about the Social Security wage base. That's the amount of money you pay in your FICA taxes. This is from Carolyn, who basically thinks that we need to educate the public on Social Security, and we ought to use the wage base as a way to shore up the system. I couldn't agree more. So thank you very much. We could actually have a sliding scale of a wage base and have different tax on different parts of it. We can save the system. Don't worry. Don't freak out. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
The cure to your financial problems could be a phone call away. 855-411-JILL is the number to dial. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst, certified financial planner, all around happy-go-lucky radio show host, as well as podcast host. Have you checked out the new podcast? It's called Better Off. You can get on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. 855-411-JILL. You can email us, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Here is a question from Rob, who says, I want to stop working at my current employer at around age 65, and I'm currently 59 and a half. Okay, so I will probably work independently or, a lower paying job at age 65. I don't want to, and do not want to wait until the Social Security date of 66 and a half or when the mortgage is paid off. I'm slated to have $2,400 a month of Social Security. My wife will take hers from mine since she hasn't worked since 1981. In order to do any of the 65 plan, we need the mortgage paid off. Okay, so here's the deal. I think what he's asking is, wants to stop working at 65. He may not want to wait until his full retirement age. And so he said right now his mortgage is essentially $1,460 a month. And should I try to pay it off early using small portions of my 401k, which is worth about $460,000? Or should I sock away money into a Roth IRA, finish paying off the mortgage using the IRA? It'll be tough meeting the max IRA contributions at our current financial level. All right. I'm going to take a few steps back here. First of all, I don't understand why you don't want to wait till your full retirement age. I don't really get that, but maybe I'm mistaken here. But my theory on your situation is as follows: what you ought to be doing is trying to maximize your Social Security, and also waiting to apply for your Social Security until you can maximize those benefits. Now, that would be 70 and a half. Maybe you don't want to do that, but at least to your full retirement age, especially since your wife is claiming based on half of your record. Then in terms of the mortgage, what's the difference? I mean, you could pay it off. I don't know what the interest rate is. You could, but I wouldn't start pulling tons and tons of money out of your retirement account early while you're still earning money and at a higher tax bracket. What I would do is just keep paying off the mortgage and slowly use the IRA as need be to finish it. And you don't have to max out your IRA contributions right now. I mean, so what I would do is this. I would take the money. I would beef up your non-retirement savings to prepare for retirement. I would pay off the loan as you can. I wouldn't go nuts trying to match it exactly tick for when you're going to retire, and relax. Make sure that you can make your, pay your bills, do what you're supposed to do, but don't kill yourself. All right? Okay. Couple questions about credit scores that came in. And here's a question from Diane, who says, I read something many years ago, I don't remember where, but it said that after retirement, when you're on Social Security, your credit score goes up simply because during your working years, you could get laid off, while Social Security is a sure income. I never heard of that. I never heard of people's credit scores rising in your once you're on Social Security, maybe, but I doubt it. Again, the most important thing you can do is to be sure that you pay your bills on time. That is by far the most important thing to do. And, don't open up too many accounts, and don't worry about it. Here's another question about credit scores. This is from Bernard, who says his condo association is considering requiring a minimum FICO score of 700 for new owners and renters. What do you see as the upside and downside of this proposal? Well, I mean, 700 is a pretty big number in terms of renters, but and it does shut out people who've had some hard times but are back on their feet. It's not a terrible thing. I just always think that when you live and die by these scores, you can start to hurt people that you unintentionally don't mean to hurt. And that I would be a little bit nervous about. I would put it in a range. And I would never put a hard and fast number. What if someone comes in who's a great renter, sublet, someone really needs it, it's a kid, this, that, and the other thing, and the score is 690? You really want to be hard and fast to that? I don't know. That seems bold. Oh, gosh. Anyway, that's the story. All right. Oh, I'm loving all this. We're getting through a lot of emails here. This is good stuff. What's my time? I can't do it yet. I need no time. Okay, sorry. When we get back, I'm going to have a quick SEP IRA question here. When we return, more of your questions. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL, or send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com, or give us a call, 855-411-JILL. Nicole writes that her husband recently got some money in a SEP IRA, which they promptly rolled over to his existing Roth IRA. At the end of 2017 calendar year, without the SEP, he would not hit the $5,500 limit on the Roth. However, if the IRS counts the SEP and the Roth together, he could go over. My question, does the IRS count the SEP as a separate amount from the Roth itself? I don't want to go over the $5,500 and get penalized. I I'm not 100% clear. I feel like I remember that if you do a rollover, that it's a different transaction from a contribution. So what I would do is I would just double check with your tax preparer just to make sure. But I don't think it counts. Okay, that's what I'm pretty sure of, but I'm not 100% sure. So there's that. The other question I had was that you went from a SEP to a Roth, which means I think you converted. So I just wonder whether that money that small amount of money is going to be considered a conversion. So that, again, two pieces to this. So double check both of those questions. All right. But I think you're going to be okay. By the way, one of the reasons that Nicole and her husband decided to roll over into their existing Roth is because she writes, I'm a believer that it's much easier to stay on task with our investments if they reside in one place. Yeah, that's interesting because we had a question earlier about that. Sometimes it's a lot easier just to be in one place to manage your money. I think that's a good idea. All right, stay tuned. Next hour, we've got auto expert Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. He's going to tell us what the heck we need to be doing to get on track to buy a car. It's Jill on Money. Stay tuned. Car Buying 101 with Mike Quincy. We'll be right back.
I need a dollar, that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need a dollar, that's what I need. Well, I don't know if I'm walking on solid ground, 'cause everything around me is...
It's the weekend, which means it's time for Jill on Money, the show that makes money fun and just happens to answer all your financial questions. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to Jill on Money. It's hour number 2. So delighted you're with us. I have such a treat for this summertime program, for this episode. It's something that many of us, not all of us, but many of us have to deal with. And it's sort of a hated topic. I think less so now, but are you in the market to buy a car? Did you say, "Oh my God, I have to get a car, but I'm going to drive this one into the ground"? Are you flirting? You going to buy, you going to lease? Going to buy used, going to buy new? Going to use financing, not going to use financing. Cars are just like a very funny thing because I would suggest to you that, for most of the people, it's like one of the most important tools you have for your work life, because what you have to think about, like, I got to get someplace, right? According to Auto Trader, it's a really good summer to buy a car because there's a lot of inventory out there. Discounts are deep, and incentives such as cash back, low interest financing, particularly on sedans and subcompacts, are out there. It's unbelievable. But what's the right car for you? How can you actually figure out what is the right car for you? That's why I have brought on Mike Quincy, automotive expert from Consumer Reports. He joins us. He's been on the program before, but we are delighted to have him back. Mike Quincy, automotive expert. Talk about the process of buying a car today and how much that's changed.
Wow. Well, there's the cars these days, and it kind of sounds like a cliche, but they're better than ever. It used to be there was only one or two manufacturers you could count on to get a reliable, fuel-efficient car. And now they're really all pretty good.
Really?
Compared to even 10 years ago. I mean, when people talk about getting the most car for their money, but they want a new car, I said, have you checked out Kia? Have you checked out Hyundai? And they often say, well, aren't those the really junky Korean cars? And they say, absolutely not. They're fantastic. And they still, pack a lot of value in. But I think what you've got going on today for buying cars is, the whole interwebs thing. I mean, you've got all this pricing information. You've got all of these people giving their, air quotes, reviews of cars. And, some are better than others. And I guess, being from Consumer Reports, I like to think that we're the best and we're worth, buying a subscription to get really good, unbiased information. But there's tons of information out there in terms of what car you should buy.
If I pick up the Consumer Reports Car Buying Guide for 2017, I am going to find out that this is how much this vehicle costs the dealer, and this is how much I should pay. I mean, how much is reasonable amount of profit for a car? $500, $1,000? What is it?
I think under normal circumstances, it might be 2 to 3% above their cost. The challenge is finding out what is their cost. And again, Consumer Reports has never been about ripping off a dealer. They obviously they're in business to make money, and they should make money. The ugly fact that a lot of people don't understand is that car dealers actually make more money selling used cars than new cars. That's where the profit margins are. So there isn't as much sometimes leeway for a new car sale as people might think. And it also depends how hot the car is. For example, if the price of gas spikes to $4, $5 a gallon, people will be standing in line to buy a Toyota Prius, which did very well in Consumer Reports testing, 52 miles per gallon overall. But right now, Priuses and hybrids are going begging. I mean, the dealers don't want them because gas is relatively cheap, and when gas is cheap, Americans want big cars and trucks. So it depends on supply and demand.
Why do we want those big cars and trucks? I mean, is there a perceived safety in? I mean, I know that there are certain people who need those big cars and trucks because they're builders. They're in the business where they got to be schlepping stuff. But for most families, do you need a big Gazunta car like that?
Overkill.
Overkill, right?
Total overkill. I mean, my kids are in their teenage years, but when they were younger, and we would meet other families in the neighborhood, and they would have young kids too, and they all think, I need a Lincoln Navigator because we're about to have our second child. And 90% of the time you're driving around this Navigator, which is an enormous truck-based 3-row SUV, and it's empty. But to answer your question, there is a perception that bigger is better when it comes to the laws of physics. A larger mass will destroy a smaller mass, but that's not how you should look at crash test results. I mean, you need to compare like cars. In other words, you need to compare a Toyota Camry to a Honda Accord in terms of crashworthiness. You can't compare a Camry against a Chevrolet Suburban because it's not a fair comparison.
So let's go back into the car buying morass, which I have to say
is thick.
It is still thick.
It's very thick.
We cannot yet buy cars online, right? We can't really because of all the weird laws around, and it doesn't really work. Okay,
Sure.
So I heard an episode of This American Life where they devoted the entire episode to spending, I think, the last week of a calendar year in a car dealership in Brooklyn or Queens. I can't remember where it was. It was so eye-opening, Mike, because what I learned was, of course, the way that these dealerships make money, you're right, on a used car, they're going to make a bigger margin. But on a new car, they're willing to lose money to move the unit if that means it hits a certain number for the end of a month and, more importantly, for the end of the year. So essentially, the best time for you to go buy a car is the last week of the year?
It can be. And you can get a great deal on a leftover model. By leftover, I mean if you're going car shopping in late December of 2017, the 2018s are already out, and the dealers are real anxious to get rid of their 2017 models. Now, if you keep your car for a long time, you asked before, good financial decisions, buy a really good car and literally drive it into the ground so you spread that cost of that car over a long, long time. If you keep your car a long time, buying a leftover model makes a lot of sense. If you keep your cars only a couple years, the second you drive that 27 model year car off the dealer's lot, it already has a year's depreciation. So you get killed if you turn your cars over quickly, but you make out like a bandit if you keep them for a long time.
So still the best financial, or let's not say the best, the more prudent financial decision would be, I'm going to buy recently used car, like the last couple of years with a warranty. I pay cash. I don't get a loan. I drive it into the ground.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll get back to our interview with Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports in just a minute. While we're on the break, why don't you go flip through the old interweb and figure out which car you're interested in? Maybe we'll be talking about it next. Jill on Money. Your financial questions answered, your car buying questions answered. 855-411-JILL. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Have a question? Call anytime, 24/7, 855-411-JILL. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone number, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. One of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to cars and purchases that we field here at the program is, should I buy or should I lease? And that's why I'm so delighted that we have Mike Quincy, the automotive expert from Consumer Reports, with us to help answer the question, buy versus lease. Now, what about, everyone always will be like, should I lease or should I buy? And from my recollection, I did this story about 5 years ago, and when I actually crunched the numbers, that the cost of ownership was, for the sort of 3 to 5 year range, pretty close. But if you do drive that car for a long time, obviously you own something at the end of those 3 or 5 years, so you're in better position. Still the case?
Generally, yes, but sometimes the decision might not be so financial based. If you like a new car, then you like leasing, because every few years you get a new car, and that's kind of nice and psychological and fun, and then that new car smell and everything. Another is kind of a peace of mind. There are a lot of cars in Consumer Reports testing that have, let's call it, shaky reliability record.
Okay.
Some German cars, for example.
Like what?
Oh, I would say a Mercedes-Benz C-Class, an Audi A4.
You mean, wait a second. You mean like the cheap end of the high-class brands?
Yeah, not. It's not always necessarily the cheap end. I mean, even sometimes a high-end model like a Mercedes-Benz S-Class, which can be $100,000, has kind of shaky reliability. They're usually teetering on average or below average. But sometimes people fall in love with cars. And I say, all right, listen, if you have your heart set on that Mercedes-Benz S-Class, you've worked hard all your life, you really want one, here's my suggestion. Instead of buying the S-Class, which when it's out of warranty, it's probably going to cost you a certain number of appendages to keep running, lease it. Because just about the time when stuff might start be breaking on it, that's when you get to give it back to the dealer. But it doesn't make financial sense, because you're spending all this money on a depreciating asset, and at the end of the lease, you've got nothing to show for it.
We got a lot of people whose kids are graduating high school, maybe graduating college, maybe a car's in their future. I always love when I put you on the spot like this. So, best car for kid under 25 years old, or cars. I'll give you a few different ones to try.
Sure. This is when the parent steps in, does a little research, and overrules their kid. If they're like a lot of certainly young boys and men, do you call them kids anymore?
Yeah, we call them kids. I call the kids if they're under 40.
Young male drivers, let's say. They might say, I want a truck. I want a big burly truck, or I want a Mustang GT or something like that. That's when the parent steps in and says, okay, first of all, Mustang GT, no way if you're on my insurance because it's going to be too much money. Secondly, we don't want you driving a truck. You're a relatively inexperienced driver. Trucks have a higher center of gravity. So, forget about that too.
So wait, well, I want to stop right there because I think this is a huge mistake that people make when they have young drivers. And I had this whole fight with my sister about it, which is that getting the RAV4 may not be the best car for that 18-year-old because, as you say,
they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know. So if you don't know what you're doing, you want to go. You want to be in a sedan.
Probably the best car for a teenage driver is a 2 or 3 year old Honda Accord, Toyota Camry, Ford Fusion. You want your teenage drivers to have the most advantages in terms of safety equipment. You want your teenage drivers to have a vehicle with stability control, and the newer the car, the more safety equipment, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking. These are the cutting edge safety equipment that are on new cars these days. And it's just so funny that you bring this up because as our friends are having their teenagers and go through driving and the knee-jerk reaction is, well, I'm going to put Junior in the old clunker because, well, he's just going to scratch it up anyway, and I've worked hard all my life. I'm getting myself a new car. And I usually stop them and say, you need to actually turn that upside down. And they say, are you crazy? I'm not going to put my kid in a new car. I said, but your 10-year-old, 15-year-old clunker doesn't have stability control. It doesn't have all the latest safety equipment. So you want your kid to be in the newest car with the most amount of safety that you can afford. And they kind of sit back and they say, well, I guess. But, I mean, if you put your kid in a new car, you're going to buy a new car for your household. Mm. You put your kid in that and they survive an accident, that's awesome. You put your kid in an older car and doesn't survive. Would you pay any amount of money to get your kid back? I mean, it's
now that you put it that way.
I don't mean to be like morbid about this or anything, but don't get too frugal when it comes to putting your kid in a safe vehicle. And a big truck is not the best vehicle to put your inexperienced driver in. The braking distances in our tests are much longer. The handling is clumsy. The steering response isn't very good. Instead, put your kid in a car that has good handling, good reliability, good safety equipment.
Okay. Remember when we would talk about like this brand is a good brand, and now you just said previously, like these Korean car makers have really turned their brands around. Are there certain brands that you are partial to? Just you, Mike? Like, are you saying like? In the luxury, let's say luxury sedans, like what brand out there do you or your Consumer Reports, coworkers, what are the brands that you like?
It honestly,
or is it model?
It ebbs and flows. There was a time that everything Honda made I thought was great, and now they've in the last I want to say 6 years. I mean, their Civic did so poorly in our testing that it wasn't recommended, like for the first time ever, just because its performance wasn't very good. And Honda did a quick redesign and put it back out, and it got better. There was a time when BMW, I loved everything they made, but then they came out with this really complicated control module that was called iDrive, and it controls like the climate system and the nav system and the audio system, and it was so complicated and distracting to use. And they some of the steering and handling in their cars lost its verve, it lost its sharpness. We just tested the BMW 530i, and the 5 Series traditionally has done very well in our testing. This one is good, but it's not like the BMW it used to be. It really comes and goes. I think Nissan has fallen on hard times. When Renault bought controlling interest of Nissan, we saw a definitely watered down of their products. They just weren't as good as they used to. And it really comes and goes. I think the brand that's kind of doing well, and if you want to say on a roll, I would say Subaru. Subarus have done very well in Consumer Reports testing. The new Subaru Impreza was redesigned this year. It is quiet, it's comfortable, it's reliable for an all-wheel drive car. It's fuel efficient. The Legacy sedan is one of those ones that flies under the radar. It's really a much better car than you think they have a right to be. They also make a really fun rear-wheel drive sports car, the BRZ. They did this in conjunction with Toyota, and it's an amazing track car. It's super, super fun to drive. I'm pretty sure. Well, I'm sure. All of Subaru's products are recommended by Consumer Reports. And again, it's an exciting brand, but man, they make good stuff.
So this category that's called crossover, what is that really?
It's the most popular type of car for sale these days.
And what is it?
A crossover is basically a car-based platform that sort of looks like an SUV. It's not a big hulking truck. It's usually not as big even as a family-sized Toyota Highlander. It's more like the Honda HR-V, the new Toyota CHR. They're kind of these morphy little hatchbacky things that maybe have a slightly higher ground clearance, sort of look SUV-ish.
Okay, we'll be back with our interview with Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. We're talking cars in just a minute. If you've got a financial question, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
401k, IRAs, refinancing. She covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, the phone number is 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We are talking cars. And Mark, what was your first car? What was the first car that you drove? A 1976 Ford Maverick. And was that your parents' old car? Or was it just, how did that car come to be? So you bought it, did you buy it yourself? $5,000? $500. Wait a minute, it was a 1976 car. What year did you buy it? You bought a 20-year-old car? Oh my God. Okay. How long did you drive it? 5 years is a lot. That's so funny. My first car was a 1974 Toyota Celica, a stick shift. Did you have power windows? I didn't. I didn't have power steering either, and it was a beast. Like, my father taught me how to drive a stick on that car, and the first time you're on a hill and you think you're going to, like, roll back and bash into someone behind you. So I'm riding the clutch like nobody's business. It was horrifying. My father's like, oh, my God, you're ruining my car. Anyway, I drove that car for a long time. I loved it. It was great. And then the first car that was really kind of like my car, because I shared that one with my sister, was a little Subaru. And, then all of a sudden everyone started driving these big monster cars that we just, we had long cars growing up. We just didn't have these big high cars. SUVs and minivans, they're all the rage. You got a big family, but maybe you don't need quite as much as you think you do. That's why we have Mike Quincy, automotive expert from Consumer Reports, to steer us in the right direction. Mike Quincy has the knowledge about every type of car, and you may be surprised to learn his view on the, I think, the much beleaguered minivan.
Say what you want about minivans, but they're the best family vehicles of all time.
And which is the best minivan, or what are among the favorites at Consumer Reports?
There's really two these days. It's either the Honda Odyssey or Toyota Sienna. The Chrysler Pacifica. Chrysler really, invented the minivan and then fell asleep for 20 years. Sorry, guys, in Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Oh dear.
No, but they redesigned their Pacifica. It did much better than the last model, the last Town and Country that we tested. Reliability is still a crapshoot, I think, with Chrysler products. All Chrysler products, even redesigned.
Really?
We just got they came out. Chrysler came out with the first hybrid minivan. It's a plug-in hybrid, which means you actually literally plug it into your wall outlet and you get a certain number of all-electric miles before the gas engine kicks in, and then it operates like a normal hybrid. And for years, people said, hybrids are awesome. Why isn't there a hybrid minivan? Well, listen, Chrysler went out and did it. And our first impressions are it's a really neat effort. It drives pretty well. It seems pretty fuel efficient. But again, is it one of those ones you lease because you're not sure if it's going to hold up over a long amount of time?
Oh, man. Talk to me about the Tesla. Do you know that that Tesla just entered the Fortune 500 in the 330-ish range?
Mm-hmm.
I think they sold 76,000 cars last year. That's it. It has a market cap that's larger than Ford and GM.
Right.
It's insane. I mean, Elon Musk, I don't know if he makes a good car, but I'll tell you what. He sells this company, not the cars themselves, the company. And investors are flocking into it. They say this Tesla is the future. Is Tesla the future, Mike?
I think Tesla is breaking a lot of boundaries. I think Tesla is certainly sending a wake-up call to Detroit and maybe even Japan, Germany. The reports that I read suggest that Tesla loses money on every car they sell. So
that's some bargain there, huh?
Well, I mean, I can't speak on whether or not this is a good investment or not. The cars themselves have done well. The Model S did very well in Consumer Reports testing, a really high road test score, almost just put us on our ear with how dazzling some of the performance is.
How much is that, a Model S?
A Model S is going to run you anywhere between $70,000 and $125,000.
Jeez, that is a lot of moolah.
Listen, it's the car of the younger, moneyed set. You can't, if you forgive the expression, you can't swing a cat in Palo Alto without in a Tesla. In the Northeast, you're still getting a fair amount of electricity from fairly dirty energy sources, coal-fired plants that have grandfather clauses on that don't have to have really clean emissions. And if you're going to a place where your source of energy is pretty clean, solar, wind, whatnot, then it's a different story. I mean, Tesla, I think, is going to be turning into, if not a car company, an energy company, a battery company. They're talking about selling these solar panel roof shingles. They built this enormous battery factory out in the middle of nowhere, Arizona. I think partnered with Panasonic, and they're just looking at internal combustion engines and fossil fuels and saying, that there's got to be another way. So when you look at it that way, you have to applaud them. For me, I'm I'm a road trip guy. And I have a sister that lives in Washington, D.C., and that's about a 5-6 hour drive from my house in Connecticut. If I took a Tesla, it would probably double my drive time.
Why?
Because the Tesla, according to Consumer Reports testing, the Model S is getting about maybe 220 mile range.
And you got to stop and
you got to
it.
stop, and it's not necessarily a straight line to where the supercharging stations are. So you might do this kind of crisscross down to Washington, and to me, that would drive me bonkers. I especially the diesel models that certainly have gotten a bad rap lately, but even a decent 4-cylinder car, you can get down to Washington without having to stop for gas. You might have to stop to go to the bathroom or pick up a cup of coffee, but with Tesla. Listen, my 17-year-old son says, if I ever had the money, that's what I'd buy.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. The Tesla Model X is sort of this kind of weird SUV-ish gull-wing doored thing that did not do well in our testing. It's filled with squeaks and rattles. The interior was not befitting of a $70,000, $100,000 car. I didn't care for the Model X at all.
All right, we'll be back with our interview with Mike Quincy from Consumer Reports. We're talking all cars all the time. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Annuities, IRAs, 401ks. She covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back with Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I am Jill Schlesinger. Mark Talercio is producing the show, and he is rocking it as always. Best producer in the world. I don't think I say that enough, do I? I really should. Mark has been up to a lot of shenanigans. Check out our YouTube channel. Search Jill Schlesinger. He's got all sorts of stuff up there. And what else do I have? An Instagram account, right? Anyone care about that? Some people do. Check out my Instagram. Is it Jill on Money or is it? Yeah, Jill on Money. And do check out our podcast, Better Off. You can get on Apple, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, anywhere else you find your favorite podcasts. Okay, let's get back to our interview with Mike Quincy, automotive expert at Consumer Reports. If you had all the money in the world, what would be the car you would buy? I'm letting you indulge in your fantasy right now.
Well, I got to ask questions.
Okay.
Is it a day-to-day car? Is it a fun car? Is it the last car you own and you're driving across the country kind of car?
Okay, so if you had all the money in the world, a day-to-day car, which one would it be?
I would probably. I actually am quite smitten with the recent redesigned Audi A4, despite my qualms about Audi's hot and cold reliability. The A4 to me is everything I want a car to be. It's just the right size. It is comfortable. It's quiet. It has great handling. I could still get a manual transmission in it, which is what I would get. It's decently fuel efficient for an all-wheel drive car. The controls aren't horrible. I find the A4 to be immensely satisfying to drive, and in many ways, I don't see a need to spend more than that. And
what is that, like 50?
Yeah, a nice A4 is about 50. And if I could afford something really stupid, I mean, I'd still probably get one of those. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't love 911s, which is easy, $100,000. I love Corvettes.
No Ferrari? What if you had to go like that range? If you said like you can have any car in the world, you can have a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a Maserati. I don't even know what I'm talking about right now, so I have no idea. But I'm just asking you that question.
So when you ask a car guy that question, the automotive fantasy changes by the hour. Which is why we're so neurotic, because it's always I have more of a soft spot in my heart for older Ferraris than the newer ones. The newer ones are technically proficient, but they did away with the manual transmission, and I get it. I get that the paddle shifters, the modern automatic transmissions, they shift much faster than you can. They can downshift faster. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, to me it's not as much fun.
Right. So why drive a Ferrari if I can't?
I would go for an older Ferrari with a manual. I still love old muscle cars. I love Shelby Mustangs. I love Mercedes made this really cute two-door convertible in the late 60s, early 70s called the 280 SL. You might see those, flitzing around the Hamptons now and then. Those are just cute. I mean, I've always liked those.
And what if you had your not your last car, but you're going to do a big road trip. And maybe this is like a fun thing for people to do. Like if you're going to do a road trip and you rent a car, you're not going to take your car, but you want to just have like a good road trip car. What's your road trip car? And you don't have to pull a 30-ton whatever you're pulling.
No. It used to be a Volkswagen diesel.
Really?
Oh, yeah, because the Volkswagen Passat diesel, the last one that Consumer Reports tested before the whole scandal and them yanking that engine off of American showrooms, got about 600 miles of cruising range. I mean, you could drive from Hartford to Detroit and not have to put fuel in your car. In terms of I'm a road trip junkie, and that to me is my candy. That's my nirvana. I love a super long cruising range.
If I walk into a car dealership and they want to sell me an extended warranty, yes or no?
No.
Never.
Unless the car has a traditionally horrible reliability record. Say you fall in love with a Jaguar XF.
Poor you.
Okay. It's a stylish car. You always wanted one.
Yeah.
You got your heart set on it. I would say do some data digging. Look at Consumer Reports reliability data, and if it's a car that you love that has a poor reliability record, but you really want the car, I get it. I can understand why you'd get an extended warranty. However, in the last survey of Consumer Reports subscribers about extended warranties, I believe the number was like 70 to 80% didn't see a dime of it, didn't use it. Or you've really got to look at the fine print. What exactly is covered in that? Because the accountants at the car dealers, at the car companies, they're much smarter than all of us.
Yeah.
That they have data on components that may or may not fail. They know If
What to
something's going to
include and
break,
what not to.
what's going to break? And,
Yeah.
and
Oh, sorry, we don't cover tires. I
well,
love that one.
Years ago, Chrysler made a big splash about this lifetime powertrain warranty. What they didn't tell you, they probably did, but you didn't read it, is it wasn't transferable. So obviously some smart accountant, statistician at Chrysler said, okay, a certain high percentage of our cars only stay with owners 2 or 3 years. And in that time, the powertrain doesn't really fail. So we could say that we have a lifetime powertrain warranty, but it's not transferable. So when the powertrain,
You're the schnook who bought it 3 years in.
Exactly. And again, I don't have any evidence to back that up, but I got to think that the auto companies are hedging their bets a certain way. They know stuff that you don't know, so again, sorry the long answer for your question, but generally speaking, you don't get a really good financial return by buying an extended warranty.
Thanks again to Mike Quincy, the automotive expert at Consumer Reports and friend of Jill on Money. If you've got any questions, we want to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back with Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. 855-411-JILL. That is our phone number. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. Bum-ba-da-bum. By the way, how great is this? We got a question about auto insurance in honor of Mike Quincy of Consumer Reports. How about that? When should I get rid of my auto insurance collision? When? Okay, I actually had to look this up. And this is an important piece, which is, of course, you have to comply with your state law and carry whatever is necessary. But if you've got an old car and it's worth under $5,000, my insurance people tell me that's the time you eliminate collision and comprehensive coverage, and you increase your deductible, because that's when it just doesn't make sense. And by the way, while you're at it, if you have your car insurance and your homeowner's insurance and in separate places, you may actually want to combine them. I spoke to a couple of insurance folks to check this out. There are real discounts when you have car and homeowners and umbrella liability coverage from one company. So I would absolutely check that out as well. Look, and as Mike says, the technology is just so much better right now. So I think that you should drive a car into the ground, but you should also be careful, and you should be making sure that you take advantage of deals where they exist. Mark and his girlfriend are going out car shopping after this show. It's amazing. And guess what he's going to buy? What Mike Quincy says to buy. And Mark, what was the financing that's available? 1.9% financing. Now, I don't know. Everyone's got different negotiation, ways to go about it. I just say get the best price, then talk about the financing after. All right. That is it. That is the show. We thank you so much for listening. Tune in next week. Who knows what kind of fun and frolicking we'll be doing. It's Jill on Money, 855-411-JILL. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. See you next week, and thanks for listening.
Well, I need